Just gone 11 o'clock here on Asian Network's Big Debates. The question I'm asking you all today is, what would you want the UK government to do about the Indian farmer protests? Now, lots of you have been getting in touch on Facebook. So I was trying to read out one comment from Jas, who said to put pressure on Modi for better farmers' working ethics and take back the new bills that are being introduced. That's what he would want to happen. We know it can be done, as countries always putting pressure on our own gains. This needs to be done before India takes the wrong action by false allegations of terror or something like that. Obvious unless India is now more powerful than the UK. So basically, Jazz is saying that pressure from the UK government on the Indian government for better farmers' working ethics. Is that possible? Would the UK government do that? Should the UK government do that? And if they did, what difference would it make? I've got Prableen Kaur on the line, and I've also got Jasveer Singh. Good morning, guys. Thanks very much for coming on. Jasveer, what do you want the UK government to do about it?
What I want is for the UK basically to favour the side of the morality of the farmers, as I would say Justin Trudeau did in Canada, by just saying, look, they have a right to peacefully protest. We can completely empathise with why are they protesting, and we hope that the situation is resolved in a way that the farmers agree with. And let's also just bear in mind that the UK still has financial sanctions on Afghanistan, on many other countries. So if they wanted to, there is a lot more they could do. But obviously that is not realistic. The UK right now kind of seems subservient to the Indian state when it comes to kind of trade deals and, especially in this Brexit era.
You say it's not, Jasveer, sorry, you say it's not realistic, but the UK hasn't intervened on other issues. For example, Kashmir, they haven't intervened on other internal Indian issues. So why is this one any different? And what difference would it honestly make?
Well, I said I don't think it's realistic that the UK would intervene because of the history that they haven't intervened in things like Kashmir. But it would make a huge difference if they did, if they actually said, look, we're going to implement some sanctions, financial sanctions, something along those lines, until this situation is resolved, because you're breaching clear human rights violations in the way you're treating the farmers. So that would really just push them and pressure them into acting. But again, I don't think that's realistic. What I think that just at least speaking about and favouring the morality of the protests would do is show people that this is the right side of the argument. And for me, it's very clear what the right side is. So that's what I would like to see.
Okay, well, Jasveer, you're from the Sikh Press Association, based in the UK. What difference does it make to you as a British Asian, your government's awareness of an issue? Why does that matter to you?
It matters in many ways. Firstly, in a direct way, many UK-based Punjabis, Indians, we own land out there, or we're going to inherit land out there. So this is something that's going to impact our situation here in this country. And if we want to look at it from a kind of economic viewpoint, we could say that, we're going to be worse off, and that's going to damage this country if this situation continues. We could also just say that this is something about our relationship with the UK state. This is about having trust and recognizing that, our rights, the issues that are most important to us are respected by our government. And it doesn't matter the fact that, our families stem from somewhere else, because that brings us back into the argument, are we really British then, if there's a difference, because situations that impact us are based on the way they're treated are based on where our family descends from. So there's a lot to it.
Okay, Jasveer, stay there for me if you can. Prableen, I'll come to you in just a minute. Thanks for your patience. I want to bring in Jeff Chowdhury now. You're a businessman. Now, what do you make of what Jasveer's been saying? Do you agree with him on his reasons?
Only partly, I would say.
Go on, explain.
There's two elements, I think. I think there's the first part, which is allowing, free of expression, being able to sort of, protest, etc., etc. But I don't think that's just a UK issue. I think it's something that the international community should get together with and say, look, by the way, people are allowed to protest peacefully as they are in any democracy around the world. So that's the first part. But I don't think that's just a UK issue. The second part is that a lot of people in this country are upset about it because it's an economic issue. And I think your previous, caller basically referred to the fact that he might inherit land or he might have land or people have land. But, frankly, that's a very narrow issue. And I think at the end of the day, I think that the UK government have got a lot of other things to worry about, COVID and Brexit and the economic health of the UK. And so on the one hand, yes, they should be allowed to protest. And I think UK government together with the United Nations and Europe say, look, people can protest. But frankly, should they get directly involved in these issues or in another country? No. Otherwise, we could do every country in the world.
They've done in other countries, just not with India. So why shouldn't they?
They've done it in many, many countries, and they've also done it in India as well. I mean,
then why not in this situation?
Why is India being penciled out as for special case? Is it because of the historic?
That they've done it in many countries, so that means it's not a special case. So explain why they shouldn't do it now.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it now. What I'm saying is that they should do it with the rest of the...
Protests have happened in lots of countries and the UK government hasn't said anything.
That's also true.
So what difference would it make if they say something now?
Well, from my perspective, this is such a huge issue. There's so much history tied into it. And let's not pretend that the Indian economy, Indian economic decisions aren't always influenced by their trade relationship with the UK. So there is a clear path of influence there. So the difference right now would be that they would take a stand and stand with their British Indian citizens that are protesting en masse and, bringing the capital to a standstill because they feel so passionate about this. And it'd also be showing that they actually care about human rights because the trust is eroding there daily.
I just want to come back to something Jeff said about how this is a narrow issue in terms of British Asians, caring about it because of having land, for example, in India, or families and relatives having so. Is this a narrow issue? Because when we saw lots of people in London protesting, for example, that was one of the main factors driving why they cared so much so that they took to the streets. So is this a narrow issue? And actually, is it the fact that it's not necessarily a narrow issue? Does that mean that the UK government should show awareness of it at least?
I mean, if I could just give a quick example, lots of expats, lots of Brits living in, let's say, Spain. Imagine a lot of them move back here, which they have, but they still own holiday homes in Spain. If the Spanish government turned around and implemented a bill which could clearly lead to these homes being taken away from them, these homes that they've been invested in. A lot of Brits, if that happened to a lot of Brits here, how do you think the government would react? How do we think the British public would react? I can tell you clearly, I can guarantee there would be outrage. I can guarantee that the likes of Boris Johnson would be making passionate statements, probably about something to do with Brexit and saying, these are the rights of our British citizens and we have to counter this.
Okay, guys, both of you, stay there for me if you can. Probably I've kept you waiting for ages. Let's bring you in. What is it you are really keen on saying about this?
I just wanted to say on the discussion that's happening, but it's not a narrow issue. It affects us all. Like, most of our grains and spices on our table come from India. 70% of them all come from India. It's not just a farmer issue, and it's our rights. It's our basic human rights and morals. It's your moral compass, which isn't being shown by our president. And it's like, one of the
our Prime Minister.
There's so many other issues going on, but this is, as a teacher as well, students are talking about this every day. 250 million people. This is going to go down in history. And what side of history are we going to be on? Because it's really significant. And it isn't like a small, narrow issue. issue. It affects our lives. It will affect the future as well. And if we're not speaking up for these kind of issues, then, where is our moral compass? So
that's really interesting, Prableen, what you just said about how obviously you see this as a super big issue and that it's really important to you, but also as a teacher you hear your kids talking about it. What kind of things are they aware of, and how old are they? How much is this issue cutting through across our British Asian communities?
Yeah, so it was pretty much, we spent like an hour, however, a whole lesson talking about it with my year 10s. And the young ones, year 7s, also know about it because they've seen, like, a lot of them come from the Punjabi community. So they're talking about it. They're like, this happened and then we were stopped. They were trying to make us disperse. Like, Miss, why are they doing that to us? Why are they labeling? Why are they making it that it's just our issue? They don't understand why they're being segregated as well and why no one's caring. Like, Miss, why is no one caring about this? But we all stood up for other movements. They're like, why is the president not talking about it? And they do actually start talking about the conversation because someone's mentioned before as well that, the Prime Minister gets briefed every day. It could be a very clever thing that he's doing because we're just going to mock him and be funny about it, like he doesn't know anything. But he does know, and it's literally in the new year, he has so many promises to bring in terms of Brexit and the economic deals. But this isn't just an economic issue; this is political as well.
So you think that Boris Johnson does know about it, but he just didn't? He acted as if he didn't.
Yeah.
Why would he do that?
Because he doesn't want to damage his relationship, and he's got so much pressure in terms of all Brexit as well that he isn't going to damage that relationship for this. And so I do think he does know about it. Like, how could he not know that London was at a standstill? Even people that had no idea about it were walking around. They were asking about it. The common people that have no knowledge about this. But also, this isn't just a political issue. Economical issue. This is political as well. And I think it's important to raise our voices now because it is getting violent there, and we don't want this to turn into something where they get attacked. The internet's been stopped there. They are using violence now, and it could really escalate. And it is the time for him to actually speak up now to prevent those kind of things also happening. So it's not just a economical issue; it covers loads of bases.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah, go on. I was going to say, yeah.
The absolute magnitude of what Prableen just said there about her pupils, whether they be year 7 or year 10, that is what I was alluding to when I'm saying there are people, and now there are a younger generation whose trust is going to be at a minimal level when it comes to the UK government, and also just feeling like they're part of the British society because they're seeing this issue which their family are so passionate about. They're seeing people that look like their elders, their granddads, their bibbies, their babas on TV going through this crazy period in history. And it seems like the British public don't care. It seems like our government don't care. And that is a huge deal. And the British government and the British people, they need to understand how important that is and how actually damaging that can be to the ideal culture that we want in this country.
Well, I think there's obviously a big difference between saying that someone doesn't care and then the government saying that actually it's not their issue, it's a different country's issue. Jeff, I'm really aware that you have got to go. What are your kind of final thoughts on it before you do have to jump off?
Yeah, I think it is a big issue for certain types of people and certain individuals who've got vested interests over there. But I think if you look at it in the context of the UK, I think, the UK has a lot of issues to deal with in terms of its own country. And I'm not saying that, farmers shouldn't be protesting or shouldn't be allowed to protest in any way, shape or form in a moral sense. But it should be the international community rather than just the UK jumping up and down because of their history.
I was just going to say, the UK is we can start somewhere, and we can say that about every movement, like the Black Lives Movement. There were people saying, but there's other issues there. There's always going to be other issues. Yep. We can't just ignore the things that are happening right in front of us because there's other things happening in the world.
So why didn't British Asians jump up and down when the Black Lives Matter movement started?
We did.
Massively.
We 100% did. We all stood up. So many of us stood up. We jumped up and down.
Including the Asian Network, covered it extensively.
We did.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that was the wrong thing to do. I mean, I think you're slightly getting me wrong here.
I'm not saying
it's wrong to stand up for freedom or stand up for rights. Absolutely, there's a moral issue that everyone should be supporting the freedom of expression, etc., etc. All I'm saying is that the UK government should do it through the international community, where it's much more powerful, in getting the US and Europe and etc., and bring it to the attention of the authorities, rather than just doing an individual bilateral thing together with all the other issues that we have to deal with.
Jeff, thanks very much for your time. Probably I'm just going to let Jeff go because I know you've got to rush off. Thanks very much for getting involved. Probably go on. What were you about to say?
I was just going to say how Jeff said that it's a vested interest. You know, I don't have family Punjab, actually, and I don't have people that have land there. It's not a vested interest for a lot of us. A lot of people that are standing up on social media, celebrities that have no land there, these are not vested interests. It seems like very narrowing what is going on, minimizing what is going on by saying it's vested interest and we're going to gain something out of it. This is really a human rights issue, and it's like a moral issue. So it's weird when it's called a vested interest, because actually all of us should be affected by this, because we're seeing 250 million people come to the streets for a reason.
Okay, guys, very interesting. Lots of different angles to the debate. Lots of people also getting involved on text, WhatsApp, and on social media. Han has actually texted in saying, can you please answer why the UK government has to do something about farmers in India? Surely the Indian government should be sorting that issue and the UK government should be dealing with this crazy pandemic. Does the Indian government do anything for all the Indians living in the UK? That's from Han, who's texted in. And we've had a WhatsApp from Khalid, who says, I'm a British Muslim Pakistani. The farmers' issue in India is an internal issue. Other countries cannot intervene because of the implications it can have on future and current trade with an upcoming superpower. I feel Bollywood and cricket stars should step up, which is interesting. So moving away from political figures. Yeah, go on.
So people that question that, they need to realise that Britain has a long history of what is known as interventionism. And at the same time, there's also this kind of hierarchy of morality often, which is kind of pushed by through a Western narrative that says, we are running our country great here, and those that are doing a lot of wrong, breaching a lot of human rights, there's a history of them speaking on and calling them out for such issues. And if they do it for China, which they've done very regularly about China, they have to do it with India. That's otherwise it's disingenuous. But the thing is, we know it's disingenuous. We know that this is all based on trade, and it's just about making that clear. So from my perspective, the British Indians here, the British Punjabis, and specifically from our perspective, the Sikhs, they can understand, who we can work with, who we can expect any help from, who we can trust.
Well, Jasveer, it's interesting, but I mean, for example, the UK government hasn't been all singing and dancing about issues around Uyghur Muslims in China, for example. And so, it's hard to compare country to country. I know exactly what you're saying. Thanks very much for joining in.